Wow, look at this picture right here. This little boy is pushing his sister on the swing. Can't get any better than that. Or wait, maybe actually he wants that seat and he's trying to push her off. Look at this picture here. Somebody's trying to give somebody a present, man. That's a beautiful thing too. Wait a minute. Maybe there's somebody trying to steal that present from somebody else. Oh wow, this lady must have really been sleepy, man. She fell asleep on the floor. Wait, maybe she's not asleep. Maybe she's dead. No matter what you look at, you can pretty much interpret it in a different way. And just because you interpret something one way doesn't mean that it's true. You can find out through new information that what you thought you saw was actually wrong. This happens a lot. When people see a picture like this, usually what they'll say is, wow, that makes a lot of sense, I could see this line up, being true. But this is actually a very deceptive picture. This was lined up exactly this way for you to think this way. This was lined up this specific way in order to deceive you into thinking the way that the artist wanted you to think. This is pushing a religion on you, a way of thought, a way of belief, and something that there's no true proof, but just from an interpretation of one person trying to push his interpretation on you. But if you are to set up a picture of a person next to a chimpanzee, you're going to see these differences and be like, wow, there's no way these two came from each other. Like there's a real huge difference. And then when it comes to the mental capacity of a human and an ape, man, it's astronomical. It is a huge gap in our mental capacities. We have people that are building rockets and making computer programs and doing so many great things with our minds. And then you see an ape in this capacity, it's just way different. It's not even close. So for us to think that we came from apes just isn't very logical. And just to be fair to the evolutionists, a lot of people, they make the argument, well, if we evolved from apes, then why do we still have apes? That's actually not a legitimate argument, because the evolutionists don't teach that we came directly from apes as if one day an ape just gave birth to a human. What they actually teach is that further down the line in the evolutionary line, there were lower life forms that branched off into different kinds of animals. And from one lower type of life form, maybe something like a lemur, branched off different kinds of apes, and then also from a different line branched off humans. But this actually still is a legitimate argument, because when we have on this same planet such a huge difference and such a huge gap in mental capacity as we have, and then as the ape have, you have to ask, why would we evolve in this way on the same earth, in the same environment? Why would we have such this large difference in mental capacity, and then the ape have such a different capacity of mental abilities? Why would we have such a different way of thinking and such injustice and love and all these things that we're able to conceptualize that the ape cannot conceptualize? Why would we be able to do this and the ape couldn't on the same planet? So what went wrong, especially if we came from one of the same lower life forms? It wouldn't make sense. So it really is a good argument still to say, why do we have apes still and we have humans? So it's all about interpretation, the way you interpret evidence. And so we have to understand the difference between fact and interpretation. Evolution is not a fact, no matter what you've been told. It's an interpretation, and it's a deeply held interpretation, because this gives people freedom from God. This is what people want so bad. They want to get rid of God, even though it's the most logical conclusion to having life, to having anything at all. Because the greatest question that you can really ask is, why do we have something instead of nothing? And nothing else answers this better than our mind. This is why we have information. This is why we have morals. This is why we understand truth, because we come from a mind. In 2 Corinthians 10:5, we're told to destroy all arguments and lofty opinions that are raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to Christ. This is the purpose of my ministry. There's really nothing else that I want to do except for let people understand that there's no other logical worldview other than the worldview of the Christian theist. Nothing else compares. When we look at the scriptures and when we look at reality of life, Nothing else answers these questions except for God, and not only a God, but the Christian God, because this is where all the evidence points. We have a lot of cults and things that have broken off from Christianity, but from the beginning, since Adam and Eve, this message has been passed down verbally for a very long time before it began to be written down. And now being able to go back and find things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, we're able to see the uncanny skill the Jewish scribes have had throughout history to keep accurate information and to have it for such a long time, because now we can see things like the Isaiah scroll, and we can look at our Bible today and look at Isaiah and see, wow, this is spot on. So even though there are a lot of different creation stories through different cultures, they all have so many different similarities, but nobody has been able to keep accurate information like the Jewish people. This is something that God has gifted these people with. It's a skill to keep this information, because these are the keepers of God's word. In the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And this word has been passed on to us. And this is the reason why we're able to know God. This is the reason why us as people have the gift of words and monkeys do not. One of the biggest bullets in the evolutionary gun is Lucy, but it's all about interpretation, and it's also about a bunch of lies. When you look at the pictures that they give you of Lucy, you have to understand a lot of this is just artist depiction. These are things that they speculated on, and they added to the pictures to make it look like what they want you to see. Remember, only humans have whites around their eyes. No other ape that has whites around their eyes. But when they give you pictures of Lucy, which they couldn't see the eyes from only the bones, they put whites around the eyes. They have her walking straight up, even though they know that she died falling out of a tree, because she lived in trees, because she was an ape. That's actually what Lucy's name means. Australopithecus means southern ape. She was simply an extinct form of ape. And they're trying to push it off to you as if she was some kind of transitional form. But you know what? They would need much more than Lucy to prove a transitional form. They would need thousands and thousands of different transitions in order to come from an ape to us. And these are just missing. The missing links, plural, have never been found because there are none. This is an interpretation that is given in schools today to children to make them think that there is no God, because these people have hardened their hearts and tried their best not to retain the knowledge of God. It's pretty simple. Jesus told us that light has come into the world, but because people's deeds are evil, they love darkness. They don't want the light. They don't want to understand. They don't want to know God. I pray that today you're able to resist this urge to deny God and to accept Him in your life. This comes from repenting, picking up your cross, and following Jesus Christ. Something to think about.